In this video, we are going to see few of the advantages of repertory. We have already seen few advantages of repertory. Mainly, it helps in the finding out simillimum. It works as a reference book of materia medica. It helps in the study of materia medica in the part 1. Now, in this part 2, we will mainly focus on the advantages of repertory with respect to few important things like case taking, remedy relationship, and other miscellaneous advantages. Now, when we'll study advantages of repertory with case taking, it will cover one point of relationship of repertory and organon. When we will study remedy relationship, it will cover point of relationship of homeopathic materia medica with repertory. Now the first point is that repertory modifies case receiving. Mind well, I have purposefully used the word case receiving. Now in this image, there are three small gears which are interlinked with each other. And these three gears or three circles which are interlinked with each other are first is case receiving, second is repertorization, or you may call it as a case processing, and lastly the differentiation of group of remedies and coming to the final prescription. Now all these three processes are linked with each other. If case taking or case receiving is better, the next processes like analysis, evaluation, conversion of symptom into rubric, selection of repertory will go very smoothly. And if case receiving is good, it will also help us in the differentiation of remedy, which is very crucial because the maximum failure occurs at these two levels. One at the level of case receiving and at the level of differentiation of remedies. If case receiving is better, automatically the differentiation of remedy will be better. Now let us see how this case taking and case receiving is different. Now, in the case taking, the more number of questions are asked and we get less answers. But in case receiving, there are less questions and more answers. In case taking, we have to dig out the answers after repeatedly asking the question, and there are less spontaneous answers. But in case receiving, your questions are so good that the patient answers more and more spontaneously and gives us more accurate and more characteristic information. In case taking, we get more information but less qualitative symptom, and in case receiving, we get more qualitative symptom. Now here I want to recall the famous story of Dr. Kent and his students, that one of the student of Dr. Kent has gone to take guidance to Dr. Kent and he has shown his case taking information. And Kent has just remarked, uh, my dear student, you have got plenty of information, but you have missed the case. That is, what does it mean? That means, it means case taking should not be a mere collection of information, but it should give us more qualitative symptom, more picturesque symptom. Similarly, one more difference, that in the case taking we get so many information, so many symptoms, but it is not listed in the materia medica. On the contrary, in the case receiving, we require more symptoms which are listed in repertory or materia medica, so that whatever is told by patient and received by the physician will easily find its similar counterparts in the homeopathic materia medica. Again, in the case receiving, there is more observational faculties are required, especially for understanding the personality of the patient. And the case receiving is the most crucial aspect. The most common reason for the failure is the students or the beginners do not receive the case properly. They may take the case, but they have not received the case properly. So, now let us see how repertory modifies this aspect of case receiving. Now, from the knowledge of various aphorisms of Organon, from aphorism number 83, it is very clear that the case taking or case receiving requires certain prerequisites, and one of the prerequisites is sound senses. Now, what is this sound senses? So that means we need a proper eye, we need proper ears, we need proper mind. Now, regarding these three prerequisites, we will see later on how the sound senses will help us for proper case receiving if we have proper knowledge of repertory. Before that, we will see one quote of Dr. Perry Smith regarding how repertory modifies the case taking. I will read it for you. It helps in art of interrogation and framing of intelligent questions. Without its knowledge, even the case taking can often be an ineffective affair. Now, in this quote, this it word refers to the repertory. So, we'll again read this quote by adding the word proper repertory instead of it. So, repertory helps in art of interrogation and framing of intelligent question. Without the knowledge of repertory, even the case taking can often be an ineffective affair. Now, why we are giving importance to this Dr. Perry Smith? Now, Dr. Perry Smith is one of the direct students of Dr. James Tyler Kent, and he has also contributed in the field of repertory by publishing a repertory Repertorium Generale. In this repertory, he has done the job of verification of medicines and verifications of medicine mentioned in the various rubrics. He has also added some of the medicines in the already existing rubrics. He has also written a small booklet on the art of case taking. And he was a very successful homeopathic physician after the death of James Tyler Kent. So, why this is true? Why repertory knowledge helps or modifies the case receiving? Now, for that purpose, we will have to understand one more sentence, and that sentence is, we cannot see what our mind does not know. What does it mean? That means if you know what is a snake, how it looks, then only you will be able to see the snake. If you don't know snake, so many snakes will pass away from your sight of eye, but you will not understand it, what it is, what is the importance of this. You will see, you will just understand some kind of animal is going. You may not fear for that snake, but once you know that this moving object which is going just side by side, the u is called as snake. And the moment you know that it is a snake, you are able to see that snake, and then you start some fear, or then you start taking certain precautions. I will also take some examples from our repertory. Now, in repertory, there are some rubrics like directions of symptom in the BBCR. Now, in this directions of symptom, some rubrics are mentioned, like right complaints started on the right side, complaint goes to the left side, complaint starts on right side, goes to left side, complaint starts on left side, goes to right side, sometimes again it goes to right side. If you don't know, such are the symptoms in our materia medica, such are the rubrics in our repertory, the patient will tell you, doctor, initially the complaint was in the right side, then it traveled to left side, or vice versa. It was initially on the left side, then it went to right side, and sometimes some patient will say that complaint again goes to the right side. If you don't know these things are there in our Matra Medica, you will just ignore about this very important information given by patient. Just because you don't know, you will unable to see it, you will unable to hear it. Now we'll go ahead and we'll see few more examples, and let us understand how knowledge of repertory is really modifying our case receiving. Now, in the previous slides, we have talked about the sound senses which are required. Now, whenever we take a case, there are three things which are very important. One is your observation, your interpretation, and you are asking the questions. The most important thing is observation of the patient. Now let us see these 3 points one by one. Take the example of repertory and we will understand it. The first is observation. What we are going to observe in a patient. When patient is talking, you have to observe its expressions on the face. It is very clearly said that face is the mirror of your mind. And if you are able to understand that expressions on the face, you will get direct information about his mental state. For example, in repertory, in Kane's repertory, face chapter, there is a sub rubric face chapter, sub rubric expression, like expression sickly, expression sufferings of, expressions old looking, etc. So, if you are able to pick it up, in your case, it will be very useful in your remaining two steps of repertorization and differentiation. Similarly, your second sense, that is ear, does the job of hearing, and you must hear it properly. Like certain rubrics are given in the mind chapter and in mouth chapter, especially speech, how the patient is talking. In that mind chapter, under the speech rubric, there are certain sub rubrics like hasty. You understand, hasty means the patient is talking very rapidly. Speech embarrassed, that means patient is having some kind of shame, some kind of inhibitions while describing his complaints. Speech loud, speech slow. If you know all these rubrics, you will able to hear and you will able to use these observations in your case receiving. Similarly, in mouth chapter under speech rubric, there are certain sub rubrics: speech difficult, speech painful, speech high, speech stammering. Few more rubrics are there. Study it and you try to observe it when the patient speaks. Then in mind chapter there is also rubric answers, and there are sub rubrics: aversion to answers, reflects long before giving answers, refuses to answers hastily. So, if you are well aware of all these rubrics, that sub rubrics, you will be able to pick up this kind of symptoms from the patient, and your case taking will be improved. It will go to the level of case receiving. Then we have to observe, we have to listen to the what exactly the patient is talking, what is the content of the talk. For example, in mind chapter there are rubrics like lewd talk, theorizing. Theorizing means the patient is creating out certain ideas, certain different theories. Then there is a rubric thought. So these thoughts, number of sub rubrics are there. Then there is a rubric fear, and a huge list of fear is given. Then certain rubrics like are there, like affectation. Affectation means the patient is taking a certain adaptation or certain behavior which conceals his original feeling. Then rubrics like frivolous, that means patient is speaking without much seriousness into it. So this is what you should observe, what is the content of the speech of patient. And then important thing to observe is the type of voice modulations, and this modulations of voice also reflects certain emotions like anxiety. The patient is very much anxious. His voice tone will be different. Patient is irritable. Patient is angry. Patient's voice is suspicious. Patient's voice is secretive, complaining, lamenting, shrieking. So if your observer facilities are good, if your observations are good, you will able to catch up this small contents of the speech of the patient, the various kinds of modulations. So this is the importance of observations in case taking, so that you will reach to the level of case receiving. Second important task is the interpretation. What patient speaks, what you understand from the patient, you have to convert it, you have to interpret into the rubrics of repertory, and then this rubrics will be used for differentiation. Now, for this interpretation, what is required is you have to know the various cross references, various synonyms, etc., so that you will be able to clearly interpret what patient wants to say, and that interpretation, that exact rubric and the remedy in that rubric will definitely help you to go to the accurate selection of medicine. For example, absent minded and absorbed. Now, superficially looking, this rubrics seems to be very similar. That patient is not attending in the patient is not attentive in the present situation. But there is a slight difference, that in absent minded, the patient's mind is already filled of certain things, certain thinkings, certain thought process, and he is filled, as his mind is filled with certain thought process, he is unable to concentrate on the present situation. In the absorbed, what happens? The patient or the person is thinking over continuously a single thought, and that thought process, he is so much engrossed, he is so much doing it thoroughly, that he loses his contacts with the surrounding, and then he is unable to focus on the present situation. So if you know such kind of difference, it will help you in the interpretation. I would like to quote some few more examples, few more similar rubrics. You should study what is the difference between these three rubrics. Loathing of life, death desires, and weary of life. In all these three rubrics, there is a thought of ending your life. But there is slight difference in between these three rubrics. If you know this, then only you can ask intelligent questions to get more clarity about this rubric. So, to understand, to interpret what patient says, you have to be very well versed with the various cross references and their differences. One more example: impetuous, hurry, impatience. One more example: theorizing and plans. So, if you have this knowledge of cross references, by repeatedly going through this similar rubric, these synonyms, these cross references, it will definitely help you to interpret what patient says, and your level of case taking will definitely go to case receiving. Then, one more important point is asking the intelligent questions. So, That again, Perry Smith, we have just seen how he emphasizes that this task or this quality of asking the intelligent question is only possible when you have certain knowledge of repertory. And in that knowledge of repertory, you must read certain rubrics repeatedly, and repeatedly you have to be get well versed with the rubrics and sub rubrics, and then you can ask intelligent questions. Now let us take an example of rubric weeping. Now, in mind chapter, rubric weeping is given near about 3 pages, and if you just read this sub rubrics of weeping, you will come to know that there are so many causes of weeping are mentioned. For example, weeping admonitions from, weeping contradictions from, weeping emotions after slight. So causes are mentioned, and in that cause, one more cause is also listed, weeping causeless. So if patient says कि मुझे बहुत रोना आता है, you don't just listen to it. What you have to do is you have to elaborate it, and in that elaboration you should ask more intelligent questions. And if you have knowledge of certain sub rubrics, you can ask the definitely certain questions. Then under that weeping rubric, there is certain rubrics there with the prefix with. So headache with, cough with, narrating symptoms when, etc. Then again weeping, if you read the sub rubrics, it also lists certain sub rubrics, and it throws light upon how the patient is weeping. Few examples like weeping involuntarily, weeping whimpering, weeping violent. Then if we are aware of this sub rubrics, we can definitely improve our case receiving by asking the intelligent questions. That is why the great stalwarts like Margaret Tyler has given a suggestion that never grudge turning the pages of repertory. You have to develop the art of repeatedly reading, going through the pages of repertory, so that your case taking will improve, and you will reach to the level of case receiving. This is also very much important relation with respect to the organon, because in the organon we all get instructions about how to take case, but the practical knowledge of how to take case, it only enriches when you have knowledge of repertory. This is how repertory modifies case receiving. Mind well how repertory modifies case receiving. This also can be asked as a 10-mark question in your theory question paper. That is the reason I have taken so many examples. Now another point is that repertory helps, or the knowledge of repertory helps to study remedy relationship and auxiliary remedy. Now before discussing this advantages, let me tell you that in today's homeopathic world, this aspect of remedy relationship, auxiliary remedies, are absolutely neglected. It has been taught by so many stalwarts that you select mathematically accurate similimum, and that similimum will work wonders for you. It will give magical cures, etc. etc. They even go up to the level that every time you do not get a result with a single medicine, you take the new case and you go for the another selection of medicine. But this is true. But this is true only for the cases which are very well rounded cases. A well developed cases means the cases which have mental generals, the cases which have physical general, the cases which have characteristic particulars. But unfortunately, the most of the cases coming to the homeopathic physicians, they are already mismanaged, they are already suffered from the modern medicine physician. So the quality of symptoms we get in a case is a very poor, and the cure with a single medicine is very rare situation. And to handle this rare situation, it has which has become a common situation where one remedy is not going to work. Now in the next slide, there is I am going to show you the quotation of EB Nash. But before that, now let us understand what Dr. Kent wants to say with respect to this remedy relationship and auxiliary remedies. Now, this is the quote which has been taken from the laser writings of Dr. James Tyler Kent. Now, let us read what he writes there. He writes, every time you study a case to find a constitutional remedy, don't simply limit yourself to finding similimum, the remedy with most quantitative and qualitative similarity. Now, this is my explanation. What Ken writes, don't simply limit yourself to finding similimum. Always have a second remedy up your sleeves, a remedy as much as possible similar to the first. In this way, you will not be loose for your second prescription. Now, what Kane says, whenever you try to find out the first remedy, the first constitutional remedy, don't just limit by yourself finding out a single remedy, but during that repertorial analysis, you must have the second remedy ready if this the first selected remedy does not work. And what Keynes writes there, that if you just study such remedies by finding out not only the first remedy but the remedy which might be required if the first prescription fails, the Keynes says you will not be losing your time, because again you will have to take, otherwise you will have to take again new case, again do repertorization, and then again find out the few one more new remedy. But if you do it in the first time while doing repertorial analysis of the first case, you have to not limit yourself by finding out only one remedy, but finding out the another remedies which are very much close to this first remedy which you are going to prescribe. And this your readiness will save time if your first prescription fails. Now let us see the quotation of EB Nash. Now, you must be knowing that E.B. Nash is a very popular name in the field of homeopathy, and E.B. Nash has written an excellent book for the study of materia medica, that is therapeutics of materia medica, or he has written a materia medica, leaders of therapeutics, that is the proper name of his book. And in his book, he describes thoroughly the how to identify the medicines in our day to day practice. And this is the quotation of that master who has thoroughly studied the materia medica. And let us read what he has said, that rarely will a case come out so clearly that the cure can be performed with one remedy, but a succession of remedies will be necessary, and here is where scope of complementary relations comes for recognition. Now, what does Ibn says? That it will be very, very rare situation, rarest of the situation where a single remedy does magic for you, does wonders for the patient. But being the most of the cases one-sided cases, and we know from the knowledge of organon that this one-sided cases require zigzag cure. That means you give an initial partial simillimum, it will relieve some symptoms. Again, there will be few more symptoms will be in the case. You again add those new symptoms in the totality of symptom. You again prescribe for the new medicines, and in that way the cure will proceed, especially in the one-sided cases. And this succession of remedies should not be haphazard. This succession of remedy should not be blind. And in this matter, the repertory will help us by suggesting certain remedies which might be required. Now, the remedies which might be required after the first medicine will be closer medicine to the first medicine. It will not be a very remedy which is far away from the first prescription or from the totality of symptoms of the first medicine selected. So, for example, ignatia, nitramur, sepia, such kind of remedies will emerge which are very closely related with each other after your repertorial analysis, and you should be very much ready in prescribing those remedies in a succession, because all these remedies are complementary to each other. Then, once you study this repertorial analysis by finding out the first remedy and what are the close group of remedies which are very much close to the first remedy you have selected, you may plan your treatment. For example, if the totality of symptom suggests cilicia, but during the acute phase of that evolution, the cilicia, being a deep acting medicine, is not going to work immediately. We'll have to give a acute remedy of cilicia. So, if you repertorize properly, you might come out with certain remedies which are covering the head symptoms of that patient, certain remedies covering the abdominal complaints, certain remedies covering the joint complaints, and these remedies covering the joint complaint will not be too far much away from cilicia, but they will be closely related to the cilicia. So, in that way, if you carry out the repertorial analysis properly, you must be able to plan out your remedies. What are the acute remedies which might be required during the acute phase of local complaints? What could be the intercurrent medicines which will be required to remove the blocks of miasm, etc. What could be the remedies which can be follows well? Hmm? So such kind of deciding of plan of treatment will you can make initially when you repertorize a case and when you analyze that case properly. And how repertory helps in this way that I have told you, that the proper repertory analysis, and there are certain repertories which have dedicated chapters for just for the study of remedy relationship. So this two more popular repertories, that is Boningossen's therapeutic pocketbook, Boger Boningossen's characteristics repertory, have two sections, have one separate section, that is concordances or relationship of remedy. And this sections will definitely help us in selecting the second prescription, in deciding the plan of treatment. Now, so to find out the remedy relationship, to find out to decide the plan of treatment, one way you study your repertorial chart, you analyze it properly, and you, depending upon the similarity, you plan. This will be the acute remedy, this will be the complementary remedy, this will be the intercurrent remedy, or this will be the most close remedy, the first one. So that is the one way. Another way is use this concordance section of BTPB and BBCR. There are specialized way when this repertories will be taught to you. You will come to know how to use these sections for finding out the remedy relationship. Now, one more important question comes: why unnecessarily to expect repertory to suggest about the remedy relationship and auxiliary remedies? It is already given in the homeopathic materia medica. What is its advantage? Hmm? So let's study the advantage. What is the advantage of studying a remedy relationship with the repertory? Now let us see. Now what happens in the materia medica? The relations which are described are very much fixed. They are biased. It is depending upon the experience of that author, like aconite and sulfur. So after aconite, every time you have to give sulfur. After belladonna, every time you have to give calcarea carb. Or after ignatia, it should be followed by nitrum mur, and after nitrum mur, it should be followed by kalika. So one more cycle is that colocynth, causticum, and then Staphysagrea. One more cycle, very famous cycle of calcarea carb, lycopodium, sulfur. So such kinds of relationships are fixed. So one more relationship is of pulsatilla and kali sulf. So such kinds of relations are fixed. There is no scope for changing the complementary medicine. But ideally, this relationship of remedy should vary depending upon the symptoms of a case, depending upon what old symptoms are relieved, what new symptoms have come. Accordingly, it will vary depending upon case to case. Every time, aconite will not require sulfur. Sometimes, aconite may require calcarea carb depending upon the symptoms of the case. So, The advantage over materia medica is that in repertory, the remedy relationships are unbiased and the sources are multiple. And in materia medica, the relationships which are described, they are only limited up to the experience of that person. It is fixed and it is usually limited to a single source of materia medica. Now, this is how repertory will help you in finding out the remedy relationship. Now, this point will automatically cover one more relation of repertory with materia medica. Now, in between this slides, I have added certain slides with the section of questions and answers or question time. You think over this slide, you try to find out the answer of this slide again and again, repeatedly. Listen to the whole video properly, carefully. If you like this video, comment upon this video. If you have any query, also ask there, and share this video to as much as to your other friends who are also studying the repertory. And with this, we will conclude this second part of advantages of repertory. Then a few more advantages of repertory we'll have to study in the part 3, because already this video has become of near about 47 minutes. Okay, so we'll learn the other miscellaneous advantage of repertory over other subjects in the next video. Till that time, learn this video repeatedly, solve the answers, find out the answers, and share this video. Thank you very much.